At 5:12 a.m., I stood in my driveway watching my corn barn fold into a roaring orange mouth smoke, in my teeth heat pushing me back like a hand, and the HOA president in a cream blazer held up a piece of paper like a trophy and said, "Demolition permit, signed by you." For half a second, my stomach dropped because the signature curled like mine. Then my head caught up. Wrong seal, wrong font, wrong authority. And I thought, lady, you lit the wrong match. My name is Ethan Cole. I farm 12 acres on the edge of ridgeline meadows, and during the week I wear a different uniform in a different room. A federal judge who signs orders when folks try to bend land, use law until it screams. I usually lead with coffee, not titles. You know what I mean? This mess started the way small wars start. With 3 sharp knocks at 6:00 a.m. and a smile made of glass. Melissa Kerrigan. "President, you're in violation," she said, sliding a $500 fine across my threshold, because my barn was 18 inches too tall for her brochure sky. I told her their rules stop at the split-rail fence because my parcel is county agricultural. She leaned in like she was smelling weakness and said, "Rules apply to everyone, Mr. Cole. Pay by Friday." Heels ticking away like little hammers. Then came the pump noise complaint at 7:10 a.m. when the pump was off the fence. Color memo that said my brown wasn't approved. Earth tone, the photo of my feed truck with a note about daily fines stacking. And I'll admit it felt like that one finger tap on your forehead again and again, until all you want to do is swat. But I didn't swat. I made a folder. Dates, times, headers, videos. Because quiet folders beat loud opinions 9 days out of 10. The night before the fire, I wrote one line in block letters on a yellow pad. She wants the land, not the view. And before sunrise, a Prescott demolition truck drifted past the stop sign, like it owned the morning figures moved through shadows, with the confidence of repeat customers. My camera caught a flash at the northeast corner, and then the barn cracked and leaned, and the fire ate 30 years of sweat in minutes. Melissa stood there, framed by sirens and smoke, and waved that permit like a parade baton, emergency nuisance abatement to protect property values. And the sleepy neighbors murmured, and I asked if she had a county court order, and she smiled that tight smile and said, "We have authority." And I said, "Emergency abatement without a court order is just vandalism in a blazer, not loud, just steady. The kind of steady that makes a liar blink." By breakfast, the firefighters were rolling up hose, and I was rolling out my timeline on the kitchen table, the doorbell video of Melissa's 6:01 a.m. delivery. 2 weeks ago, the management company emails with headers pointing to their office servers. Section 2.1.3 of the CCNRs highlighted in red, where agricultural parcels are exempt from architectural control, and I started calling names like I was setting chairs for a meeting. Nora next door dinged for tomatoes. "I'll bring the letters and muffins," she said. "Walter down the street 78, and organized like a library." "I got minutes," he said. Deputy Mark at the county looked at the permit for 4 seconds and said, "Wrong seal, missing the eagle's right talon." We didn't issue this, and the state fire marshal bent down at the ash line and came up with accelerant traces and a look that means felony. Yeah, that happened. I could have pulled rank called in favors. Started swinging a gavel around the neighborhood. But I didn't, because the only cure for rules abused is more people reading rules together. So I signed an affidavit as a citizen and kept building the binder. And of course, Melissa sped up, not down. The paper ran an unsigned editorial about public servants forgetting who they serve with my initials, tucked in the corners like gum under a desk. Security blocked my feed truck at the gate, while rain moved in and grain dollars ran off the bed. The management office said they were verifying permissions like a script. And when the gate finally lifted 20 minutes late, I just wrote down the time and kept the page flat. My cousin Liam, land use attorney, with eyes like a ruler, peered at the signature and said, "Inkjet fringe." Your real ink bites the paper, then pointed at the version code in the corner, retired 3 years back, because amateurs copy what Google still shows. And that night, Walter arrived with a manila envelope. Like it was radioactive inside, were Ridge Clubhouse and Spa bid documents layered right over my acreage margin note, typed by a genius who loves margins, expedite by removing barn obstruction. And I felt anger with edges, but I kept it between the lines. We took over Walter's garage, taped the county zoning map on cinder block, stacked the subdivision plat on top, and I drew a thick line where HOA authority ends, passed out highlighters, and watched eyes widen as people realized the line wasn't theoretical. It ran through their lives. We built a thread of fines and letters. Walter cataloged minutes like baseball cards. Mark coordinated with ATF of state demolition crews, using rentals with modified VINs. And I turned Exhibit A into Exhibit whatever it takes. Because proof is proof when you lay it end to end, and it spells a name you already knew. Thursday night, we walked into the Ridgeline Clubhouse lemon cleaner, and nerves in the air, live stream running, because Melissa loves a camera, and she tapped a tiny gavel like she believed it could make lies legal. First item, nuisance abatement costs, she said, looking at me like a teacher indulging a child. Mr. Cole, brief and civil. Concise works, I said, rolled my cart forward, clicked the screen to show the fake permit next to the real one. Wrong seal, wrong font, wrong everything. Then a payments ledger from the management company to Prescott Demolition, with memo lines that said, "Pre-clear, barn off-site." And Melissa tried that slow condescension voice. That ledger is proprietary. You don't get to interpret it. And Deputy Mark and the fire marshal stepped forward holding official folders, thick enough to change posture, and said, "We'll interpret it," and announced probable cause, that arson occurred at my address, and a warrant for HOA records, and the room moved like wheat in a wind. Melissa covered the mic and declared harassment pointed at me, and said I was corrupt and weaponizing position. And I stayed steady. You forged documents and forgot jurisdiction. HOA rules. Don't cross the fence. You lit a fire to clear land for your spa. And she laughed too long and waved an environmental report with a dead surveyor's name on it. The marshal flipped the page and asked, "Did he inspect from beyond the grave?" And I swear you could hear a couple people choke on their own surprise. 2 plain jackets entered badges came out Ms. Kerrigan warrant for fraud and conspiracy to commit arson hands. Where we can see them. And her face went through 5 weather patterns in 3 seconds and landed on a storm. "This is a witch hunt," she spat, looking for allies and finding folks suddenly in love with their shoes. And when the cuffs clicked, it wasn't victory, it was oxygen. The noise stopped, and I told her as she passed, "You already tried to bury me, you just picked the wrong shovel." The agents boxed up laptops, the printer with the wrong seal, stored in memory minutes, with more whiteout than truth. And the story trickled out the way truth does. Demolition contract signed 2 months earlier, funding tied to removal of adjacent agricultural blight memos, using nuisance abatement like a crowbar. And the county froze connected permits, management released emails that should be required in ethics classes. Neighbors started apologizing for the small ways they'd looked away. tomatoes and fence colors, and sheds 2 inches into an easement. Shame traveling mailbox to mailbox until it found a trash can. We shoveled my barn with friends I didn't know I had. Big Mike rolled up a backhoe like a dinosaur, with manners. We left one charred beam standing and hung my dad's hat on it. Not art, a reminder, and I started porch night once a month, open invite rules, read out loud with lemonade, boring on purpose because boring works. First night, 5 people, month 3. We ran out of chairs. The board put in an interim president who opened with, "We're going to unlearn some things." Tossed. Every capital project rescinded most fines from the last year and sent me a letter that began, "We're sorry." Not the best letter I've ever gotten, but close. Melissa will have her day in court, not mine. I'll be in a decent shirt behind a lawyer I trust, and I don't know the number that judge will say, but I know my land is mine, and it stays that way because a neighborhood chose honesty over fear, and because the line between victim and witness is a binder ring and some printer paper. So I'll ask you what I asked my neighbors. Would you have called that fire what it was, or swallowed protecting property values because it came on letterhead? Would you have paid and painted and kept your head down, or knocked on a door with a stack of minutes and said, "I think we're getting played"? Be honest. If you've dealt with a bully in a blazer, if you've watched rules get twisted against the folks they were meant to shield, tell me your story in the comments. Push back on me if you think HOAs keep order, or if you think they guard gates that shouldn't exist. Where are you watching from? And what's the worst letter that ever landed in your mailbox? Hit subscribe. If you want more real fights, where small people don't stay small and bring a highlighter to porch night, we've got some rules to read together.